I mean, they were probably being preemptive to keep the buses off the roads and whatnot, but it's always one of
Yeah,
those
of
things.
course. Plus
Do
they have
the
the,
schools get canceled because of snow?
Yeah.
oh yeah, all the time. So here's the deal too. In around here, they get allocated a certain amount of days per year. And if they don't use them, then they don't get them in their budget for next year. So even if the weather is just like right now, we're already in January and they haven't had any cancellations yet, which is kind of unusual. No, normally we get some snow in December where they'll take a day, or even in January, it can get nasty here. So there might be a day or so. But the fact that we're almost in February and they haven't taken one, well, then they know the likelihood of just February and March. Let's just say they have like 8 or 9 days that they have to use as snow days. If they don't use those, they don't get them in their budget next year. So now they're going to look for any possible little storm coming through to take advantage of them. So that's just kind of a weird thing that it works that way, but it's just how it goes.
All right. So should we start the AMA formally?
Sure. Yeah,
Sounds good.
absolutely.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to interview the team of Twolands, the CEO of Twolandstoken and the core team member, Mr. Jack is the CEO, and Mr. Zach Ozake is. Can you please introduce your designation? I just forgot about
Sure.
that.
Yeah, no worries. I'm more of the COO, the operations side of things. I do most of what Jared does not. He's more of the front and center. Yeah, I'm more of the back end coordination. I work in a number of different fields, and I have a varied background. So I actually come from initially a recruiting background. I worked on a recruiting desk for about 10 years. And was fortunate to get into that space in tech and finance for a while. I pull from that, bit of experience quite a bit. But I also come from a service-based background, and that's actually where Jared and I had initially come into contact with each other. We were, I was brought into it by a mutual colleague of the two of us. But Jared had been recruited by a friend of his to help run a couple of his restaurants during the difficult pandemic period. And then I was connected in through a colleague of ours. And so the two of us have kind of been managing and working with that group for a couple of years now. We've been rather successful, and that's where the two of us, got our start together. But, being that I come from these varied backgrounds, and I actually did go to design school as well. I was in a Master's of Fine Arts program at Penn State University for a couple of years, and I certainly draw from that bit of experience as well. I worked in graphic design for a year plus. It wasn't necessarily something I saw myself doing long-term vocationally, but I get to use a lot of those skills that I developed during that time. I get to kind of lean on that design eye that I may have, to kind of use as a resource. And I also was lucky to kind of get into a number of the, Adobe Suite items, and even had worked in applications like Dreamweaver, building out kind of rudimentary websites when I was a young man. So I have a varied background, and I definitely use that as best I can in as many ways as I can. And so I am more of a COO, and Jared is the CEO. So between the two of us, we are a little bit of fire and ice, but I'll let him introduce himself as well. He has quite a varied background. Between the two of us, we have a wealth of experience, I will say, in a number of different industries. So I'll let him do a little introduction as well, and then we'll get on to the project.
Yeah,
Sure.
nice to meet you, Mr. Zach, and over to Mr. Jared.
Yeah, so my name's Jared. I'll be 45 years old in a month, not even 3 weeks. I have a 12-year-old daughter. We live right outside New York City here in one of the suburbs of Connecticut, so just across the border. Most people that live in and around the area here commute to Manhattan, just to give you a perspective how far the distance is. It's about a 45-minute train ride into downtown New York City. So a lot of people that work in Manhattan kind of live here in the, I wouldn't call it the country, but, the suburbs. So, yeah, for me, I got my start. I had basically my first post-college real job, if you want to consider that, was I was a financial advisor over at Morgan Stanley for a couple of years. And then I was, so I had all the qualifications. I had, my Series 7, the 31, the 63, the options trading, the 64. So I got all those licenses, and I practiced with them, for, I guess, man, I was about there 2 years. And then I was offered an opportunity. My passion's always been music, and I was a drummer. And I was offered an opportunity to play drums for a very successful band here in the United States, and even Europe for that matter, internationally. So I couldn't resist it, and I went in one day and I quit my job at Morgan Stanley, and I was on the road for the better part of 2 years with that band. And then after that, I played. I continued when that band ran into some difficulties. I ended up converting into another one, and then I was on the road for another 7 years with them and recording. So I was a recording artist for many, many years until the birth of my daughter back in 2010. I decided I couldn't travel as much. And then at that point, I had always worked intermittently in restaurants. I had done some consulting, some managing, all that kind of stuff. And again, it just seemed like a natural fit. So I got into that side of the things, and I worked my way up and eventually became a partner in a restaurant up until COVID. And then I sold out my shares. And then my buddy Joe somehow sucked me back into the restaurant business. I was getting out for good. And with the contingency that I kind of help him come operate one of his restaurants for him. He's got, I think, 7 now in the group, and in and around the New York City area. And I said, all right, I'll come back, but I'm bringing someone with me to help out. And that's where I met Zach. He was introduced to me, and we kind of went in as a team. And now we kind of operate 2 of his restaurants. In fact, now I just started working at one of his third ones as well. And collectively, Zach and I have been, very successful in that. Those restaurants, just the 2 of them together, I think they gross about $7 million a year or so, somewhere in and around there. So I like to say that Zach and I basically run, a couple businesses, that are north of $7 million. And now with this new one, add another $3 million to that. And, we work really hard. We have a lot of passion. So I always like to say, if we're able to operate, to a level of success for someone else's business that kind of make that kind of money on a daily basis, imagine what we can do with our own. We started working on this project last November, 2 Novembers ago. So a little over a year now. I know we get a lot of questions like kind of what got us in crypto. That might be the next question. So I'll just answer it. Well, for me, I'd always been into trading. Even when I was traveling a lot, I'd always done my day trading and stuff like that. It was just kind of in my blood since I was 21 years old. So, all those years, and I love the excitement of the stock market, the equity markets in general. And then when crypto came about, I'm one of those stories that I missed my boat when Bitcoin first, someone told me about it. I looked at it and I passed on it many, many years ago. I wish one of the dumb moves, I had traded some other stocks at the time. And, had I gotten in, well, we might not even be talking right now. But but the point is I'd always kept an eye on it. And then when Zach and I started working together, we quickly realized that there was a commonality between us, and we both enjoyed the excitement, especially the fact that it trades 24 hours. Because, I know a lot of you guys, perhaps, or if you do follow our Telegram, you'll see that I'm kind of always on just about 18 hours a day, checking in. So we don't sleep much, and that's okay. It's just kind of who we are in and around the New York City area. And so that excitement of 24 hours a day, every day, it's addicting, and it just kind of falls into my personality type.
Not to mention, we work in restaurants, my friend. We're used to later nights. We're used to, off hours. We are the folk who generally tend to work best when others are resting. We see that as our opportunity in a lot of ways. So to quickly jump in, that's kind of our superpower in a number of ways. We do operate during the offline hours better than most.
And it helps us with various different time zones as well. Because that's been an adjustment for us. A lot of the times, most of the people in and around here, are sleeping or what have you. But other time zones, like yourself, aren't. And so we're fortunate that we're able to pivot and speak to whoever we need, just because we're pretty much online most of the time, with the exception of the minimal hours we speak. So or sleep rather.
Yeah.
So.
And being that, we do come from service as well, that, that mentality is certainly a strong suit of ours, in that we like taking meetings, we like talking to people, we like engaging. We are not afraid to do that, and we actually encourage ourselves to take as many as we can, and to do more in that regard. It is a really important thing to network in this space. There are certainly a number of bad actors. I think we can all agree that the market is full of a lot of FUD, but there's also a reason for it. And there are a lot of reasons to be distrustful, but just to be pragmatic, and to take your time with decisions. Being patient is important, and getting conversations started and massaging relationships and keeping active is one of the most important things that we've found adds value to us in the long term. So it's been a real focus for us, and it will continue to be. Also, I want to apologize if you guys are hearing any noise in the background. I have some work going on at the home next to mine, so I apologize if there's any of that kind of crossover noise, and tell me to mute if you like. No problem.
Yeah, maybe just mute when you don't speak, and I'll do the same. What was I going to add? Is there anything question-wise you want to tie into that?
Yeah, sure. So I just wanted to ask, what is Twolands? I mean, what is the story behind the name Twolands, and how does it work, and what was the idea, and what was the motivation of starting Twolands?
Sure. Well, when Zach and I first started this, one of the very first questions we asked ourselves was, can we do it? What would it take? So we started looking around, doing some research, seeing what was trending, what wasn't trending. And then once we identified the fact that, all right, I think we can pull this off. I think, based on what we think we're capable of, we can make this happen. And then immediately, the next question was, all right, well, in order to do anything successfully, you have to have passion about it. So then we needed to identify what both of us had in common that we both were so passionate about that we wanted to make a business out of it. And we quickly realized, and we aligned, that ancient history was a passion of ours. We both love it. And, the mysteries of the universe, all that stuff ties in. And so we figured that might be a good place to start. And then we continued doing some research. And what we found was, the people out there fighting the good fight, the archaeologists looking for whatever all around the world, not just in Egypt, they're hitting a lot of barriers, more so than they ever had before, in funding the archaeological expeditions, funding, and I know Zach likes to talk about all the research and the back end stuff they have to do to even bring things to light. And, many, many years ago, you had your big philanthropists that would donate in addition to the funds they would receive from universities. And, those Elon Musks, those Bezos, those Richard Bransons of the world, who would once donate a lot of money, say 50 years ago, 100 years ago, well, these guys now are more concerned with space. So there's a need in the archaeological community, more so than ever. And we decided to view blockchain, and just to speak briefly, Twolands, we consider to be a brand. We intend, and I'm sure this might be a question later, but we intend to be in various different sectors, not just blockchain. But we quickly realized that we could use blockchain as a vehicle to help a greater mission. We're a high mission project. So we figured out that, hey, how do we go about this where we can use the technology involved in blockchain, which is incredible and is going to continue to evolve, and it is a future. How can we use it to do some good in the world in this particular avenue that we'd like to go down? We quickly realized that, Egypt is very palpable, recognizes it. It's fun. It lends itself to a million different things from marketing perspective, right? Just it's identifiable. There's endless things you can do with NFTs and all that kind of stuff. So we kind of started there and we realized, all right, let's have some fun with this. We've kind of been dubbed, speaking of American movies, the Indiana Jones meets the Da Vinci Code of crypto. The name is kind of based in the fact that Twolands was called, is what ancient Egypt was called prior to it being called Egypt as we know it. It was divided into upper and lower, And at that time, up until 3100 BC, it was known as the Twolands. And we like a lot of duality in our project. We have like a lot of hidden codes and various Easter eggs throughout. So kind of Twolands for us is, symbolic of the world we live in now, and also the metaverse in a way. So we like to tie in a lot of things in that regard. That's kind of where the origin of it came from. I don't know if Zach, you'd like to add to it, but the only one thing I'll add is, speaking of origin, we're very big into our origin story, and we speak about the fact that the humans have been on this earth, at minimum 200, but more like 300,000 plus years. Yet, with recorded history, we only know about 6% of kind of who and where we came from. So our high mission, if you want to look at it from a macro grandiose type of, spectrum, is we'd like to help contribute, to filling that gap in our human history by using blockchain to help fund the things needed to kind of help rewrite our history.
Yeah, so that is pretty much right on with everything I was going to say, with the I guess additional note that we are kind of looking at multiple problems here in terms of how we're delivering a solution to the marketplace. Where we started, our inception of this project, it really did come born of passion. It was us putting our heads together and saying, where do we have intersection? Where do we have alignment on our passion? And Jared and I both love history. So it is one of those things. When you're passionate about something, you can be voracious. You don't sleep as much, and you don't need to. You have adrenaline kind of pumping through your brain and through your body when you're working on these things, and it's uplifting. So that's where we started in terms of how do we develop a concept within this space, and how do we develop a need, an understanding for a problem that we can help solve, because ultimately that's what businesses do. That's what good businesses do. They solve a problem for a consumer, hopefully lots of consumers. So our problem, as we see it, is one kind of rooted in the origin story of our species. It is the fact that we, as humans, anatomically correct humans, have been on this planet for over 200,000 years, and we've recorded just 6,500 years worth of history for ourselves. There is a ton left out there. It is also the case that about 80% of humanity lives within 25 miles of the coastline. It is the case also that 12,000 years ago, the sea levels were about 100 feet lower, or considerably lower, maybe not 100 in some places, but considerably lower. And so being that there is this massive continental shelf buried underwater, we're looking at archaeology both above and below water. There is tons out there that we have yet to discover. And I think we can all agree, this is a story, our origin story that is, intrinsic to all of us as a human species. So it is something that we saw as kind of a broad application of a niche need. Those academics that are doing a lot of the work in that space currently are watching their funding sources dry up. And so, as Jared was talking about, there are tons of philanthropists. Ooh, that's a tough word. Philanthropists are not donating in any way, the same level as they used to. And it is also the case that much of that funding has come from government or from university. Now, universities are starting to spend a little bit less because they're making a little bit less. I think people, especially here in the United States, are going to school, post-secondary school, a little bit less than they have been. The degree has been watered down in this country to a degree that, it is the case there are more people seeking different kinds of learning, alternative educations in a way. Trades are becoming bigger in this country again. But I think worldwide, we're seeing an easing away from that kind of, model with, the university model. And so we're now watching as lots of this money that used to be there is gone, and it dries up, and it creates all of this additional stress and anxiety and a butterfly effect that results in, a lack of quality when it comes to publishing, a publisher perish mentality pervading within, otherwise altruistic scholars who are in it to try and move the needle because of their passion, and yet they're being crunched by money in a lot of ways. We also have watched a liquidity crunch, erupt worldwide. This pandemic has been difficult for many countries. I think actually everybody has been affected in one way or another. But in terms of what that means for liquidity globally, there has been an easing. And, it is the case that all of a sudden these pursuits are starting to lose their funding. So that is kind of our root of passion. As far as how we're delivering a solution, we actually see an additional problem within the marketplace that we're looking to solve, and that's within the GameFi space. So within GameFi, which we do see as a significant application within our ecosystem, we see a couple of issues, but a couple of really significant ones stand out. And that is the sustainability of most of these models, whether it's the game economy or the token economy, or the two of them working in concert. It is not the case that we've really seen within the blockchain space a project that truly balances the two correctly against each other. And it's a difficult thing to do. This is a brand new space. Granted, we are learning on the fly in a lot of ways. And we're watching as, say, Axie Infinity has massive success, but they also face significant issues when it is the case that their token is what a lot of their users are taking as profit. And they do have multiple tokens to work with. But when you allow for the taking of profits in your native token, you're creating a sell pressure for yourself constantly. And it's a difficult thing to manage then at that point when you have hundreds of millions of dollars of liquidity floating around. We see that as an issue in the sense that it is more difficult to manage. It is the case then that your consumers are going to worry about whether or not you're solving at times. And we don't want to invite that question. So that is a significant issue first and foremost, but low quality is also another huge issue. There are poor UI UX gaming experiences. There are tons of confusing gameplays and weird features associated with the crypto space or with blockchain in ways that don't insulate consumers, traditional retail consumers, as well as gamers, from the blockchain side of things, which many of them maybe don't want to be a part of. They don't necessarily want to integrate with. They don't want to be exposed to, but they maybe don't mind being exposed to so long as it doesn't bother them, so long as it doesn't provide an additional barrier, so long as it doesn't keep them from playing the game the way that they would normally. But between those two sides of things, you have a sustainability issue and you have a quality issue. And we believe that a solution is available there in the sense that we need to start conceptualizing these game loops and these gaming ecosystems as ancillary to a token economy. And they work in concert and they can have some overlap and they certainly, touch each other in a number of ways. But the way that we've built our GameFi ecosystem, it's built such that it will not have that sell pressure. It will be a closed loop ecosystem that prioritizes token demand. So it minimizes sell pressure by essentially allowing our retail consumers to buy our Twolands token. It's a fiat on-ramp. It happens on the back end. They won't even know that it's happening. It pumps our Twolands price and converts into a in-game currency that is worth zero outside of our ecosystem. And in that way, we can capitalize on our own supply. We deliver value to the consumer in the form of a gaming ecosystem that they can integrate with a number of dynamic NFTs that we're really excited about releasing as well. We'll start to talk about that in a little bit, but we can, through this closed loop, essentially collect on our own supply, allow for the purchase of our Twolands token and the pump of that price, while at the same time allowing for a buying power increase over time for all of our earliest adopters. Essentially, we can guarantee winnings for early adopters, which will help build the initial player base, but it's not going to require that our company comes too far out of pocket in order to manage that and maintain that. And we get the additional benefit of watching as our earliest holders of Twolands token have increased buying power within our GameFi ecosystem as the token price goes up, because that in-game currency is going to remain a fixed static price. So in that way, we're delivering tons of value to our users, and we get to deliver on tons of value to our company as well. As well as our token economy remains healthy. We are adding liquidity every time we have new purchases within our GameFi ecosystem. We are increasing, price action and increasing volume on our token economy every time our game economy is working properly and is attracting, users and engagement. The last bit of our kind of balanced sustainability side of things that I'll kind of touch on is that our infrastructure itself is elastic as heck. It essentially ensures demand will increase and scale with each new game being released. There will be limited releases of all of these dynamic NFTs. We're doing collection after collection. We have scheduled releases. As of right now, it's looking like every 2 months we'll be releasing about 1,000 or about 1,500 at max. But those dynamic NFTs will come with a narrative quality. They will be upgradable in a number of ways, and they will essentially act as a store of value over time. The way that we see compelling gameplay of the future kind of working within the blockchain space is that users and gamers in particular are going to essentially watch their assets within those games act as stores of time, value, skill, and effort. And it drives long-term value as more games are released, essentially. What it is we mean by that is when users play within our ecosystem, they will be rewarded with micro engagements. They will be able to, within a number of different kind of facets of that ecosystem, they will be able to earn rewards that they can then pump back into their assets, and they can use that asset as the store of value. We are essentially delivering a number of NFTs that will change over time, but turn into pharaohs. And these pharaohs, you can level up and you can build them pyramids and you can turn them into gods. And we're really excited about delivering on a really cool little narrative quality, but also a number of awesome UI, UX, video contents, all kinds of cool medias that will be associated with this release and these continued releases. But it's essentially a high quality, ownable asset. And we ourselves are relentlessly focused on those recurring users and a high retention rate. So we want to give them an opportunity to feel as though their asset is growing proportionate to the amount of time, skill, and effort that they put into it. And in that way, again, we, as our company kind of looks at it, we get to capitalize on our own supply. And we get to continuously take back our own token instead of pay out more than we take in. That is unsustainable. And ultimately, we have to make sure that we are able to sustain this long term and that it scales long term. So we've done quite a bit of modeling, and we'll be releasing actually little bits of this over the coming weeks. But Jared, did you want to jump in real quick and
sure. I just
anything else about the
one thing that a lot of games are lacking, and really the root of it all, is it has to be fun. If the game's not fun to play, no one's going to play it, right? So in it, and I think in there is the real problem. First and foremost, before anything else, crypto or uncrypto, I don't care. The game has to be fun, or you're not going to play it. And it also has to be easy to play. So we studied a lot of the top games on the iPhone and Android and the App Store in general. And, we kind of looked at it from, what do all these games have in common? Why are they successful? And, there's a lot of different things, but a lot of them have similar things in their game loop that are consistent with why they make sense and why they work. Even right down to where the buttons are positioned on the phone to make it easy gameplay, right? So, we came at it also from a psychological perspective, saying, all right, we think we have the closed loop now where the ecosystem is going to grow. It's sustainable as a business. And now let's make it fun, and now let's make it easy to play. It's really that simple. And I feel like believe it or not, with the economy, how it's been in the last year, and just in general, the overall market sentiment and how we had pushed back our release, it worked to our benefit in a way, because it allowed us more time to truly figure it all out, see what worked with other projects, what didn't work. So we see it as an advantage. So we've been actually fortunate for that extra time.
Yeah, not to mention, we also watched as the consumer taste changed. When we started this project, I think everybody can agree there were a number of projects out there being released that raised tons of money, but were promising everything down the road. Not that we went at it from that perspective from the start. In fact, we had built an alpha for our first video game before almost anything else, and we got our basic website up and ready to go, in a white paper V1 written within a month. We were pretty much ready in all of those senses, but we were not necessarily prepared for what came next, and that market slide was huge. And I think what I identified most, and what Jared saw as well, what our team kind of decided on, was that we needed to add more utility. We needed to get to a point where upon token release, there had to be a value proposition supported by real utility, and there has to be use case for our token. And it can't be the case that people are just expecting to buy in, hold, and hope for the best. We didn't want that for our investors. We didn't want that for ourselves. We like to inspire confidence, and at the end of the day, what we want to deliver on is a beautiful product that people are going to enjoy, that they're also going to see as a store of value in a way. We want the majority of our investors to hold. There is definitely going to be sell pressure. There is something healthy about that. I want to stress the fact that you do need to sell your token at times in order to take profits, or to pay people properly, to make sure your community is taken care of. Your community needs to be able to take some profits, and you have to do that in a healthy way. Otherwise, it's not sustainable. What I can tell you is that about as a Twolands LLC, our revenues, the way that we've conceptualized it and the way that we've built this, our NFTs, which are the biggest ticket item that we'll be selling associated with the GameFi ecosystem, it'll be sold in Ethereum. So when it is the case that we do need to reallocate, funds of any kind, we won't necessarily have to do it in our own token. We will do it in that which is far more stable than ourselves. It is an Ethereum base. So at that point, I think we are looking a little bit more sustainable. We're looking more able to take care of our operating expenses. ETH is a little bit more liquid than most. It is also a trusted network. It is also one of those that carries a significant amount of volume and investor sentiment. It has credibility. When we think about kind of the market opportunity as it is currently, there is a $130+ billion mobile gaming market, but there is currently a $20 billion, $25 billion GameFi market cap, and the on-chain transactions in 2022, 50% of them were registered as GameFi related blockchain activity. So when we kind of look at Ethereum and we then see 27 billion plus value locked on that network, which is almost 5 times that of the next closest. Binance has, about 6 billion. We just see an immense amount of credibility, an immense amount of stability, and we like being associated with that. That's why we built our token as an ERC20. Our NFTs will be 1155D standard, so they will be able to be batched, but they will be unique as well, and they will have those unique characteristics that people do need in this marketplace. And ultimately, it is probably the closest to the optimal standard when it comes to NFTs that we're going to find. There may be some slight tweaks over the coming years, but in terms of how it performs from a network standpoint and from a transactional standpoint, it is about as close to the theoretical limit as it can get. Gas fees are about as low as it can possibly get. And to be candid, the way that we are, building this, it is such that people will top up their in-game supplies, maybe once a month type of thing. It's not like they'll have to engage with that fiat on-ramp that will, allow them to populate a wallet any more than they kind of, determine they need to. And ultimately they can, strategize and do that maybe once a month. But yeah, that's kind of how we see our market opportunity. And that's also how we've used that to inform the way that we're building. and that against the competitive landscape, it gives us a lot of confidence. You see, the Axie Infinities of the world doing extremely well, and yet they do have some significant issues with their project. It is a rather difficult thing when, say, your token price crashes, and all of a sudden, all of those profits that people were expecting to pay their families with disappear. That's really sad. We're allowing for the taking of profits in diversified ways. You can use the in-game currency certainly to upgrade your pharaohs and store value, and in that way raise hopefully the floor price of your base asset and NFT. But you could also use those in-game rewards to, say, purchase some prizes. We're offering USDT prizes, BNB prizes, raffles, and all kinds of cash prizes. There will be items like AirPods available as well. You'll be able to enjoy yourself, but also at the same time, reallocate some of those profits if you really care to, while at the same time not affecting our project's token price. And in that way, as an investor in that token, you can see it as stable. Not only are you unable to manipulate that token price, but so are the other consumers. So, competitive landscape is something we paid really close attention to as well. And there's some good projects out there. There's some really cool stuff. Farming World, I think we all love. Mobox is fantastic in terms of the way that they have developed a really kind of engaging, fun product. They also have tons of user profits via proxy assets. They have, some relatively engaging, gameplay, the more recent releases at least. The problem then becomes low barriers to entry and exit. Micro engagement rewards keep people stimulated over time, and many of these ecosystems don't have that. Sustainable economies, it really is the focus as well, and so many of them don't necessarily have super sustainable economies, and their UI UX just isn't enough to hold them up in the long term. So in terms of how we're then delivering against that competitive landscape, should we pay attention to both of those sides of things? I think we really differentiate ourselves. So that's what I'll say about that. Did you want to move on to say tokenomics and thing perhaps?
Yeah, but before moving towards that, I would like you to share a bit about Twolands DAO custodial wallet and its use case and tokenomics and all the things.
Awesome. Yeah. Twolands DAO is going to be the arm by which our community executes donations. So it is going to be the big ticket donations in which we try to move the needle as a community on this larger issue. So I've been talking for the last 30 minutes about the larger issue within the GameFi space, and that's how we're delivering a solution to the marketplace that will generate revenues to then service the larger issue, the big problem, the overarching, issue that we've really kind of used as a foundational piece for this project. And that is the issue within the space of archaeology, within our origin story, and within history, So historically speaking, we want to be seen as altruists. And as our community grows, we want it to feel as though it has that intrinsic root in altruism, and that it will be the case that our primary focus, once we are able to build, a revenue model that is actually sustaining, we want to allow our community to really make some donations, and we're going to have this DAO custodial wallet just earning money until we deliver to the community. So it will be posted publicly. It will be something that we can watch grow. It'll be on our website. We'll be watching that DAO custodial wallet grow, and we have yet to deliver on the current infrastructure that will allow for the actual engagement, but we're in the process of hiring the right person to help us build that. And so in terms of how we conceptualize it, it's rather rudimentary at the moment, but we like to leverage people's skill sets, and neither Jared nor I write Solidity code. So it is the case that we'll have to leverage some additional people and their skill sets over time. So the DAO custodial wallet will be available from the rip. That will be posted publicly. It will be something that we can all watch and kind of anticipate. The DAO release is slated for, I believe, our third or fourth phase in terms of when we're projecting the ability to actually execute donations. It's going to be tied to, in a way, our token price, while at the same time tied to the success of this GameFi ecosystem. So it is the case that we're going to be creating multiple revenue streams for this custodial wallet, but the primary source is likely to be the gaming, because that's where the vast majority of our revenue is going to come in early on. So that's where we're focused on marketing the most, so that we can take in money in a way that will allow our community to actually execute. But that will likely be, I would say, 3 to 4 months post public sale launch. And that will be something we'll be posting regularly about, updating the community about, and sourcing feedback about. So that is something to keep in mind. If you have any feedback, if you have anything that you'd like to see, join our community. Let us know. We are currently doing a ton of market research into how the newest and best DAOs out there are really engaging with their communities. DAO communities in particular are of real interest to us. They are really solid. They tend to have really strong investor bases. They tend to have higher net worth individuals, and they have better risk adjustment as well. Certainly there have been some issues, but by and large, I think it's something that lends credibility, and if done right, will support our value proposition. But if done wrong, it will destroy it. And so we want to make sure that rollout goes smoothly, but also takes into account the needs of the project, the needs of the community.
Yeah, one thing I just would like to add to that is, we try not to confuse our investors with the fact that we are a true high mission project. GameFi is the first area of the space that we're looking to get into, only to use it as a revenue stream to help fund this much larger mission. We consider ourselves a brand, naturally, as Americans, and what we're doing is not only we're getting into GameFi, but we're getting into other sectors, not even crypto related or blockchain related, just other revenue streams to find various different ways to help drive in revenue and funnel, if you will, money into this. If you just want to consider it a large piggy bank to allow our community to help pick and choose, which archaeological expeditions or research or what have you, they all feel is worthy of the money. We also have something called our Everdeen initiative that's currently being built, which acts as a charitable foundation of sorts, where smaller projects, or probably ones that'll be early and vetted for the DAO, can post and can kind of be set up almost like a GoFundMe, if you will, where they can post their team and they can ask for donations, just regular fiat if you want. Or they could post various things where it's like, hey, we're out in the field in Egypt or wherever in the world, not even necessarily Egypt. And, maybe they could use GoPros or what have you. And we can allow them to kind of tell their story a bit and, share what they could use as help out there in the field, fighting the good fight, trying to do better for, the history of our human species. So, we have that charitable wing as well, in addition to the DAO. So, at the end of the day, I just want to keep driving home that we're a high mission project looking to really, truly make a difference. And GameFi is just kind of the first area where we can see the most success and the quickest way to bring in the revenue to continue to do the stuff that we want to do.
We want to engage on both a micro and a macro level. We want to give our investors the ability to feel as though they can affect change on both a micro level and a macro level. So DAO is far more macro. It is big ticket initiatives. It is something that, excuse me, as a investor, you'll have the ability to propose, an initiative, and that will be voted upon by the community. You will have a vote proportionate to the amount of project that you own, with a cap. So there will be caps associated with all token holdings with regard to the DAO vote. So I want to be clear, there won't be any one person or any one controlling interest that is able to manipulate this. But we'll essentially allow for our community to execute these initiatives and to vote on them, and then execute donations all within a closed loop as well. So without too much Twolands involvement from our team perspective, we wanted to be able to deliver something that the community can feel real ownership over. The second part, the micro part that we're delivering, is a web-based platform. It's called the Everdeen Initiative, as Jared had mentioned, and it is one of those, we almost conceptualized it as a gift of sorts floating down from the sky, the way that in the Hunger Games you watched those little parcels from benefactors, wealthy benefactors, float down from the sky and support these fighters. We wanted it to be somewhat of a similar feeling, in the sense that we wanted this to be a space in which projects can detail themselves, make themselves available to our community or to anybody who searches, within our platform, and detail their project, get all of their information out there, but also make sure to put real effort into detailing the hidden costs, the little things, the things that people don't necessarily know that they have to deal with on a daily basis. It's red tape that we think we can make an issue or make a difference about, and we've seen as a real issue. It is, like Jared had mentioned, documentation is extraordinarily difficult sometimes if you don't have the right tools. Having, some kind of a GoPro or a videographer or videography of any kind is extremely important, and is really helpful to have the right tools for. Just collecting, storing, and analyzing data is extremely difficult to do without the right funds, without the right software, without the right, tools. So we want to allow our community to then kind of source some of those tools for these projects if they find that there's an intersection of their passions. If they find that, say, this project that's working in a space that they have passion for is needing something that they can then provide, we want to allow for that. And so in that way, we'll essentially have these micro engagements support projects through our web-based platform.
Yeah, think of it like the DAO is a way to fund the big ticket initiatives to help them really pursue what they're trying to do. And the Everdeen initiative will work as a foundation of sorts to kind of help them with the little things that'll make their everyday life easier to continue to do what they're trying to do.
Yeah, because ultimately we want these projects as well, these academics, to feel as though we are an asset for them. We don't want them to feel as though we're just a bunch of kids, flailing around, not necessarily understanding the space. We want to have proper respect for the work that they're doing. We want to have proper respect for the process. And part of that is having a respect for that which we don't know. So we want to give these projects the ability to detail for all of us that which we all don't know, and that which we could be better informed on. So that's a big part of what the Everdeen is about. And that's what we'll be kind of, broadly soliciting for, in the sense that we'll be looking to attract projects that want to achieve a little bit of support, but also achieve awareness. Ultimately, we see this project, Twolands project, the macro project, as an awareness generation tool. This is a problem that affects all of us, and it extends to all of academia, by the way. So in terms of the way that we see it, we are addressing a niche within this macro problem. But it is the case that everybody should be aware of the fact that there are a ton of issues with the current system. And in terms of the way academic, pursuit is currently, gone about, it is not sustainable. And it is the case that we will only watch as more and more misinformation begins to float around. It is really difficult when you have, say, an aging historical population that has a number of, these facts of sorts that they've believed for their entire lives, and that have now been called into question because of more recent findings. There is a lot of overlap between those communities of people, those age groups. It is very difficult to move forward when it is the case that we can't really classify information properly. We can't, lend the proper credibility when needed. And we also can't disseminate information properly. There is a significant barrier in the form of major publication and major publishers. Just to put that on your radar, guys, publishers make better margins than almost any other business in the world. They take about 25 to 30% right off the top, and they don't pay the academics that do the work that they're publishing. They make all of the money off of what it is they publish. The academics are paid through those private and public grants. They're paid through university endowments. They're paid through, all kinds of additional revenues, but it is not, or allocations, but it is not the case that these publishers themselves are actually paying any of the academics. And so when there is no, flow of that money, when there is no, equitable solution being adhered to, there's failure everywhere.
And the other thing I just want to add is archaeology aside, also one of the things that we're so passionate about is, and especially in these days when there's so much FUD within cryptocurrency, so much so that crypto is almost a taboo name now. You have to call it Web3, or people automatically think it's bad. On a grandiose level or a very macro level, we intend to prove, or at least our mission is, to really, to show that blockchain and the technology afforded to us now that never existed before can do good for this world in ways that, and the likes that we've never seen before. And hopefully it'll inspire and encourage others in various different sectors to do similar things to help make this world a better place, really. In fact, one of our team members who acts as a consultant, he works with a project called Cure Token, and that's using to fund pediatric cancer. And what could be a better higher mission than that, right? So we're hoping that this is a way, and through projects like that also, that we can show the world and all the fudders out there that blockchain truly can make a difference in the future once people start figuring out how to do so, and we weed out those bad actors.
Yeah, and the real dichotomy here is that the belief I think that we need to focus on the change that we need to make in a mentality within a conventional retail investor is it's gonna be rooted in the understanding that blockchain is not crypto. Blockchain is not Web3. Blockchain is the underlying technology. It allows for lots of cool applications, and cryptocurrency is certainly one of them. There's $1 trillion in it by now, but it is not all of it. It is not the full extent of it. We're watching this market change drastically, really quickly, super volatile, because of the fact that there is so much development going on in the space. There is so much happening, and there are new applications popping up all over the place. There are new solutions being built every day. And we're moving at rapid speed because blockchain is more of an open source community than most. It is reducing barriers for data, transfer, for, the transfer of information. And with that comes faster development. And with that also comes, a lot of reduced latency in a number of sectors. Within the educational space alone, I can only imagine what these applications are going to be in terms of delivering high quality content or delivering, low latency solutions in the educational space. There is endless ability to make a difference in disadvantaged people's lives. There are many out there still, the majority of people on this planet, as they're growing up, they don't have access to the proper educational materials. Blockchain can, in a lot of ways, bridge that gap. And we're going to watch over the next 5 to 10 years as many of those gaps are bridged. We're actually currently in a group, our consultant has put together a bit of a crypto insiders group through his consultancy. And through that group, we've met a number of additional founders, one of whom is building into that government, kind of educational space. She's actually looking to solicit government grants for a blockchain related project. And she's really, really confident that she's going to be able to do it. And we're pretty confident in her too, actually. She's going to do big things. And, it is the case that there are people looking to build into that space, and they will over the next 5 to 10 years. We've been slow to dip our toes into that water because there has been a lot of misinformation, because it isn't the most palatable thing at the moment. Crypto doesn't have a great rap, and that's by design in a number of ways. There are so many bad actors out there that have, really pursued that. And so it's warranted. But as for how we look to the future, it's not going to be the case forever. The dot-com bubble burst for a reason. So too has crypto. But the applications in other sectors, like education, like just awareness generation, actually, the transfer of information is going to be absurd. It's really cool and it's really exciting. And so that's kind of what we're looking to leverage in a way with this project.
Yeah, thank you.
That
You're
wave.
welcome.
Yeah.
We tend to
Okay.
like to speak, so please feel free to reel us in at any time.
Okay, so there is still a large audience in the world that has yet to meet the crypto and the blockchain industry. So what are your plans to reach these people and help new users?
Yeah.
Great question. Yeah. Jared, do you want to hop in on that one? I'm sorry, I have all of this noise still behind me.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I think, back to a little bit what we said is the fact that we intend to leverage Twolands as the brand and go to various sectors outside just the crypto, blockchain, Web3, all that stuff. Like we've been fortunate to be put in touch with a large toy manufacturer here in the United States that works and leads one of the largest toy companies here. So we've even been in discussions to put out a Twolands board game and try to get it into big box stores like Target and Walmart and such, which will create another revenue stream, but also bring awareness to people that don't necessarily know crypto. Maybe it offers them an opportunity to kind of come into crypto. Like our game will be on the App Store and Google Play, and they're likely will be and will need to be a version that isn't crypto related, where people can kind of just play. We also have a second game coming out down the road that's already in production that I can already play on my phone to test it out. And it's an endless runner, much like Temple Run. That'll be interoperable with our other game that we're bringing to the market first. Those games are really addicting and really fun. Kids enjoy them. I had my daughter test it out, and and all her friends were playing it as well. So we're raising awareness in a lot of different ways. In fact, one of the things the ancient Egyptians were big into beer, believe it or not. Beer was a part of the everyday life for the people that actually built the pyramids. So actually, one of the assets or things you'll be able to purchase in our very first game is beer to make your pharaoh stronger, to get closer to becoming a god. So we're in talks right now with having our own beer here in the United States, Twolands branded beer. That will do some cool things, probably with NFTs and all that kind of fun stuff. So, and that ties into the fact also that I'd like to mention is Zach and I are from the understanding that look, we have no interest in selling our tokens. If you're the CEO of Verizon or Walmart or whatever, pick your big company. Those guys don't live off selling their their stocks, right? They take salaries in different ways. It doesn't work to our advantage to sell our own token to live. It's crazy. So Kryptonite Marketing, who's done a number of very successful projects. So they're going to be helping us raise awareness in various different ways, very successfully. And we've been working with them since November, basically. And then the other thing I'll add is Tony, who is essentially a team member now and started as a consultant. We've been also working with him since November. And for those of you that know the MicroPets project that was extremely successful last year, he was the founder, CTO, and CEO, and he's since now gone into the consulting business. But we're fortunate to have him. He had taken that project within 3 weeks to north of $200 million market cap. So now he's helping us really navigate this and kind of do it from a perspective of not only what worked for him, but what didn't work for him. And what would he have done if he could go back and change it we've learned from that expertise, and we're doing those things to make sure that our token is even perhaps healthier than perhaps his was when it first started. And that's why I'm focusing on that, closing that gaming loop and making sure that we reduce that selling pressure was so critical for us, because we knew based on his experience that it was going to be a major problem if we didn't. So now we're that much more confident in the fact that we're going to be put in a better position when we launch, that we're truly going to have something where people can rally behind and feel confident that they'll be able to protect
Yeah, and
their
in terms of
long-term.
also inspiring some confidence in our investors, we knew that it was the case. Jared and I had not been established within the blockchain community. We ourselves, have managed multi-million-dollar businesses. We have, worked in a number of different industries. We have a wealth of experience, and we have a Rolodex of people that, we really like to engage with, and we have a great network. But it is not the case that we can really inspire confidence with our ability in blockchain yet. And so we wanted to start to build out a team that could really act for us in a way, but also just inform us. So Tony, as our first strategic consultant of sorts, has now become, more of a friend and team member. He is on with us a couple of times a week, and he really helps in a number of ways stay focused on the right things. So in terms of how, we've really looked at building out our team, we wanted to flesh it out with additional skills and skill sets. We do have a blockchain developer on the team, but we also have partnered with redduck.io. Feel free to check them out. They are on the go and on the rise. These guys are based out of Ukraine. They are incredible. They've done a number of contracts for us, but they also consult in a couple of ways. Lead contact over there being a gentleman by the name of Mark. They are fabulous, and they're developing a launchpad of their own, actually. And so they, have all of these incredible solutions to offer, and they're rather creative with building out new ones. But in terms of how we're trying to market, we want to be able to market the fact that we are leveraging a wealth of experience across a varied team. Secondarily, we'll be raising our profile in a number of ways. So we will be continuously growing that team. We want our community in a lot of ways to leverage itself, but for us to be able to leverage them, and for them to leverage us properly, we create access, we create vibrancy, we try and, activate and engage people. We hop on live sessions. We try and, stay up on our communications, with people. And we really try and, well, Jared, especially, I will say he does a lot more than I do in this sense. He gets his face out there every day, and he tries to stay transparent and open and honest. And, we want people to understand us as people too. That's part of what will inspire confidence. You will know our patience, you will know our pragmatism, you will know our minds in a lot of ways. And we want it to be the case that you feel safe, with your investment. So that is of paramount importance. And the way that we do that is we focus on our brand, we focus on our product, our positioning, we focus on our community and listening to feedback and being accessible as best we can and transparent as best we can. So we do target placements. We certainly go after the Yahoos, the coin market caps. We get on CoinGecko. We make sure we do the right things. We check the boxes. We raise our profile in that way. We target, certain influencers, certain personalities, celebrities. I will say we're rather fortunate between the two of us. We do have a relatively significant access to some high net worth individuals, but also, celebrity status. Being that we're just in and around the New York area, there is quite a bit to pull from in that sense. But we do also personally have a network with which we can leverage. So in terms of how we're approaching this, we want it to be multifaceted, but it will be steady. We want it to be sustainable. We want it to be the case that we'll be on an AMA, say during our blitz, at least twice a week. We'll be really getting out there and pushing the message, pushing our identity, making sure the exposure is there as well.
One last thing to add to that, and I'm sure you have another question, is we haven't even started our marketing campaign, guys. This has just been some grassroots stuff
This is practice. Yeah.
On our own to kind of raise some a little
And
bit of
we are
awareness.
so grateful to you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We've intentionally not put ourselves out there. Yeah. We, you know, in and of itself, we're doing a complete website rebrand in the coming weeks, a new white paper, a new light paper, as we gear up for our official marketing campaign. So that's being strategically planned as we speak. And at that point, within the next month, 6 weeks or so, is when, you know, we're going to be out there and everywhere. You know, so you know, stay tuned for that. That's why I really encourage you to follow our Telegram and our Twitter, because those daily updates will be coming. We will be releasing new things, you know, in the coming weeks. So, but this, you know, we've just been trying to do grassroots growth for the better part of, you know, 6 to 8 months, you know, with the intention not to put ourselves out there so much where, you know, where we overpromise and underdeliver. So that's really been a focus for us. Now we're getting ready to gear up and really get ourselves out there.
And being that we have, you know, been able to kind of develop this concept slowly and strategically over time, we have an investor base, an investor class that is patient. They're confident in us, and that is actually something I think we should transition to next. Is talk about our private sale, our seed sale a little bit, our hope for the future, and the plans over the next, you know, 4 to 6 months, but the sprint within the next month or two. Our investor pool is patient, and we've been able to be really patient ourselves. We've watched, we've waited, we've listened, and we've talked to tons of people. We've engaged as best we can, and you know, there is something to be said for, I think the fact that we personally, with our, you know, personal networks, raised, you know, an $80,000 seed sale. We've then been able to essentially sit on that as a war chest and take our time and be pragmatic with the development side and the build out of the economy. The economy model has changed radically. And so I want to stress the fact that if you do check out our website, it'll give you a lot of basic information. We had actually put together a couple of CGI videos. We had a bit of fun with this. You can tell it's a passion project. And this V2 will look a lot more polished. It'll be more of a finished product. But this will give you a good understanding of where we've been, and what we're building towards is what we've been talking about today. And we're really excited that this is the community we actually get to, you know, more than any other, talk about this first. So in terms of, you know, the current economic model, it has changed against the white paper that's posted publicly there, but not too much. And I'll be happy to talk about a little bit of what we're doing. We sold 8% in our seed sale, and that was 80 billion tokens for $80,000. So we sold it at $1 million fully diluted valuation, and we're now seeking a private sale. So in terms of how we're going to be approaching the next couple of months, we have, you know, and we're fortunate to have a couple of great team members that give us good access to VC. We will be taking meetings in that fashion, and we'll be seeking an additional raise north of, you know, $500,000. We'll be selling around 12.5% for a fully diluted valuation of $4 million. So that's a good turn for our seed investors. Now they are vested. I want to be clear. We were rather pragmatic with this. We engaged legal early. That was one of the first things we did. We had a custom token subscription agreement created by a great law firm actually here based in Connecticut. Quick shout out to Mirtha and Kalina. They are responsible for putting together all of our documentation and paperwork associated with the seed sale. And so in terms of how we structured our vesting, there is a cliff. Nothing is made available to our seed investors until 12 months. You know, that was first and foremost to be SEC compliant should we be considered a security, which is likely. Pretty much anything other than Bitcoin is likely to be considered a security. Perhaps Ethereum, I don't know. But all conjecture aside, we are looking at that point at, 12%, 12.5% in a private sale with VC. And we have 8% sold in a seed sale. We're allocating 10% for our team, and all 3 of those will be vested. So our team will be 18-month cliff with vesting afterward. Our private sale with the VC will be very similar. Now, we have yet to discuss, I think more concrete terms across the team yet, so I won't divulge too much, but there will be a significant cliff with regard to VC. There will be vesting afterward. The seed sale and our contributors, though, we wanted to give them a little bit more flexibility. They had the most confidence in us early. They believed in us as people. They were the ones that got us our start. And so we really wanted to give back to them. And so the way that we did that was we built in a 12-month cliff, and then we give them the ability to liquidate up to 25% of their holdings after 12 months. So anybody that wants to cover their risk, even if we do slide, say, let's say 50% post-public sale, they're essentially looking at the ability to cover 75% of their risk with a 25% liquidation. So we're going to give them that ability after 12 months. But if they choose not to, they can sign an additional contract for an additional year of lockup for 10% on their sum. So as an allocation for us, it represents 0.8% of the total supply. That additional 0.8% will be vested over time. But they will have the ability to do that. And honestly, all of our investors that we kind of talked to specifically about this, they asked if they could do it multiple times, to be candid. So we found that kind of funny. But it is the case that we're hoping for at least half, if not more, to kind of do that. And we're projecting that maybe more than half will liquidate and cover risk. So in terms of how we structured that, we gave them the ability to do, both sides. And after, say, 2 years, we would have a significant gap. We would have a runway. We would have, all kinds of flexibility. So we don't like having liquidity events present within our plan. And so we wanted to stagger things. We believe that at 12 months, that's a reasonable timeline. We can have essentially 2% of the circulating supply be available for liquidation. Now, we do not think all of it will go, but if it does, it won't represent any more than a couple percentage points in our liquidity. So that first and foremost, we planned, very much ahead of time. Our team liquidity will be vested more, over time. It will be a month by month process. Actually, I should finish up the seed sale. If they choose not to sign the contract after 12 months, they can liquidate the full sum after 18. So I want to be clear, that would be an additional 6% of total supply. It would represent about, at the time, we're projecting 50% in circulating supply. That would represent, a little more than 10%. So it would be a good chunk of our liquidity pool, but the way that we're building our liquidity pool is extremely healthy. And after that 18-month to 2-year runway, we will have significant liquidity built. And being that we're taking in a public sale raise, a projected public sale raise of north of 750K, we will be allocating the vast majority of that to liquidity for, as much stability as possible. We are, we know we're going to have to release on a couple of indexes. So we have to be able to sustain that. And we don't like it when any one wallet can rock the boat. So we want to limit our exposure to that. And we also want to limit our exposure to those liquidity events, because it may not just be the people that are liquidating their seed sale, but it may also be people chasing that event themselves.
And one thing I'd like to add to, just regarding that private sale, that seed sale, is it's important to recognize the fact that in order for us to be SEC compliant in how we executed that, there had to be certain criteria that were met, when soliciting, and also how we solicited. We weren't able to, post anything, email even for that matter. Everything had to be word of mouth to be compliant. So that really became friends and family. And we're fortunate to come from, an area where people here are fairly well off, and our network here also seems to be as well, in that in order to be SEC compliant, there has to be something called accredited investors and non-accredited investors. And real simply, what that means is the majority of a private sale is if you were just a regular stock going public on the stock exchange, the equity markets, accredited investors have to have enough of a net worth where the SEC essentially deems them able to lose everything if the security tanks. So just quickly, what that means is the majority of the people that we had to solicit to, and word of mouth only, had to have either, if they were a corporation or an LLC of some sort, they had to have a net worth north of $1 million, or they needed to, on an annual basis for 3 years, I believe, show at least an annual income of $200,000 or $300,000. So, and then one of the other things we wanted to do at the same time was we wanted to make sure we didn't take too much money from any one person. We didn't want someone holding that big of a bag. So the majority of to take away from that is word of mouth only. Basically, we raised 80K, right? In a matter of a couple months over last summer. They're mainly friends and family, and then a couple other friends of friends. Like my father-in-law, he brought in a couple of his buddies down in Kansas. So, and same with Zach. So, these are people near and dear and close to us, and many of them don't know much about crypto. What they're investing in is us as people. And the one thing I'll add, is that, that being said, as Zach explained the numbers, let's just say if we were to dip 50% and they were to recoup, the majority of their investment, $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 even, to many of our investors is like a weekend out with their wife and kids in this area. So it's not a lot of money to them if they're worth more than $1 million. So not only are they friends and family and have trust and faith enough, but they're able to let that investment ride, because at the very end of the day, it's not much to them in the grand scheme of their daily lives and their sustainability as from the family perspective. So I think that's important as a takeaway.
That's cool.
Did you want to add other Twitter questions? I think that was one of the questions.
Yeah, people were more concerned about the games. Will those games be available on mobiles as well?
We are definitely going to be building a mobile application, but that will be post public sale launch. I want to be clear. Our initial release is going to be on web. So that is lowest barrier to entry, but it will render extremely well on your mobile phone. So we have that design element. Yep.
Yeah, so what about the integration of NFTs?
Awesome. Yeah, Jared, do you want to talk about those a little bit, because they're kind of your babies in a way. They're gorgeous NFTs, guys. They are, some of the more beautifully designed pharaohs, sarcophagi, consumables, all kinds of stuff. I want to let you kind of talk about this a little bit, if you like.
Well, again, back to what I said a while back earlier, is just the games have to be fun and they have to be visually stunning. So one of the things that we were adamant about was they had to be beautiful. They had to be appealing and eye-catching. So I actually will give Tasha from our marketing company credit. She worked to design the vast majority of them, and we kind of let her run with it because she's simply incredible.
Jared, do you want to share some of those maybe? So is there a way to share that?
We kind of brainstormed what we would look for and what we needed and to bring them to life. And we did that
Could you
rather
please send
quickly.
that document?
The other thing that we'll add that I had a lot of fun with earlier in this project that I'd quickly like to talk about before we shift is one of our burns is called the sec. I'll tell you what, why don't I do this? I'll share a couple on the Telegram. I'll share a couple in the Telegram chat after we get off. Or maybe I can put a couple in right now when Zach speaks. How about that? So I'll throw a couple in our Telegram chat too, if you want, so people can kind of see what we've been working with. But one of the other things I just want to quickly touch base on, and we can get to another question, is one of the things that we wanted. We're big into the. Go ahead. I was just going to say, one of the other, we have multiple NFT collections, not even associated with the game. But one of the things that I had a lot of fun with is the history of ancient Egypt, in that the Egyptians were big in, into the stars, and one of the things, and moon phases in particular. So one of the things that we did early on was I put together an NFT collection with each various moon phase over the course of a 12-month cycle. So after launch, we'll be releasing when the full moon, essentially once a month, each month will have a different moon. And when it reaches the apex over the Giza Plateau, we will have a burn execute, but also we'll be releasing an NFT in conjunction to celebrate that moon phase, since the ancient Egyptians were so big into it. So for instance, there's a hunter moon, there's a snow moon, there's a corn moon, and so on and so forth, over the course of a 12-month cycle. And I had an artist and myself, we put together really stunning landscapes with hidden Easter eggs. So look hard at that. And, to essentially represent and pay homage to each moon phase. So we'll be doing that as well. But from the NFTs that are going to be part of this gaming ecosystem, sure, I could put a couple up that, that may not make the game, but are, essentially, very close to what. Any other questions in regards to that?
I think we are done with all the questions, and we should move towards the people who have been waiting since so long and who are listening, and a lot of questions might be popping in their minds. So I can see a lot of hands raised. So we are going to pick 3 people, and the last one will be lucky one who will talk to the CEO via Zoom. We will provide them the link. So they will have a conversation, actually an exclusive conversation with the CEO, Mr. Jared. And let's pick 3 first. So who is the first one? I'm going to pick.
I'm sure Zach will hop on too.
Would you guys like to do it, or I should?
Go for it. Happy to leave that in your hands.
No, you go ahead.
Who won? Jane Pierre Harnan. You are unmuted, Jane.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi there.
Oh, okay. So my question is, saying one of the main goals of Twolands is to contribute to the rewriting of human history itself. You will focus only on users who are passionate about history. If not, what will you do to provide effective and enjoyable educational incorporation into this realm of history?
Awesome. Well, I want to say first and foremost, it's a great question, but I also want to say that we definitely don't see our target demographic as solo historian, as solely a historical focus. It is definitely the case that we're targeting gamers in a broader sense. But we went about constructing our MVP with a understanding that we needed to be relatively low cost, relatively low barriers to entry, but also really prioritize a user gameplay and experience, prioritize their onboarding. Onboarding is one of the biggest barriers to entry for any consumer of any kind across any sector. It is the case that we now have within the last year a number of tech solutions that enable projects like ourselves to do things with consumers in ways that projects of the past just can't and haven't. It's antiquated in a number of ways already. What say Axie is even doing. Not to throw shade, but it is one of the things that we'll be able to integrate ourselves. And we're targeting gamers. We're targeting people who have 25 minutes to spend, and want to play a fun game in which they may learn. So to define that MVP and the way that these pharaohs are going to be interacting with them, you will, as a, say, blockchain gamer and a blockchain user, be able to use these NFTs to have higher rewards, higher bonuses. You have additional power-ups for these mini games populate within your in-game wallet as a result of holding these pharaohs. So over time, you will be able to build up a little supply of them, and you can dominate some of these games, which do have payouts and rewards. So you can take prizes, you can take profits if you care to, in a number of ways. We have a little shop, but it is, you know, a GameFi ecosystem first. So we'll be targeting gamers first, and mobile gamers in a way are the target because of the fact that this is going to render so well on mobile. It is a trivia-based concept. A lot of the reason why we positioned ourselves in that sense is for the historical aspect. And so you're right to focus on that because we're focused on it too. We don't lose focus. We just apply pressure in a number of different directions. And the way that, you know, we're applying some pressure on the history side and trying to build some awareness and some you know, learning, a learning environment and some excitement around exploration of the mind, is that we're engaging with trivia. So there will be a couple of mini games that you'll be able to enter as survival mode, time trials, you know, of a couple different kinds, and you'll be able to compete against others in order to win prizes. So you'll be engaged with micro rewards as well. So as you answer questions correctly, you'll be given rewards. As you answer questions incorrectly, you'll be given rewards. As you sign in daily, and if you do our daily question, and if you, you know, say hit the free play, you'll be paid rewards. So there are a number of ways that you can kind of, you know, spend some free time. You can maybe then put those rewards back into your base NFT and use it as that store of value. You level it up, which over time, as you reach benchmarks within that leveling concept, you get more power-ups per month. You get more rewards within games. You get a higher return over time. And you will also, by the way, have the ability to stake these things. So that will pay out in our in-game currency as well, which you can then use to circulate more and to build more and to level up more or to engage more, you know, play our games, but also just spend a little bit of time within the app, you know, spend some downtime and engage your brain a little bit. I think people enjoy trivia. I know I do. It won't be such a hard, you know, set of questions that people aren't going to have a fighting chance to answer these correctly. It's not as if we're out here saying, you know, we want everybody to be as smart and well educated as, you know, possible. We're not trying to engage on, you know, say a university level in that sense, but we do want it to be fun, and we want it to be engaging, and we want to stay focused on the initial mission as well. And again, sorry for that noise, but I think that's the best way I can answer that question. Was there a follow-up by any chance? Or Jared, did you care to jump in about that?
Wow. I'm really pleased to know that, as we really are more people passionate about our history. And of course, thank you for your complete answer.
Thank you, Gian.
Thank you again for your question.
Okay, now I'm going to pick Lord. Lord, you are allowed to speak.
Just want people to know that, even if they're not into history.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Hi there.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I've been so passionate about the Twolandstoken, and my questions is just brief but very challenging. So we are currently on the bear market, as we all know. So I wanted to know, how do you plan to motivate your team towards achieving success coming towards the bull run market, and how do you plan to continue afterwards? Because most projects, after they attain success, they tend to differentiate or deviate from the essence of which the project was initially started. So how do you plan to stay ahead of other people even attaining success? I don't know if you get my question.
Great question. Yeah, that's a fabulous question. I will say first and foremost, it is fortunate that we have a number of team members, myself included, who are currently kind of rolling back their current commitments in other pursuits. So, in terms of my time with the company that Jared and I actually met at, it is and has been considerably rolled back. My exposure to that as a result, and my ability to command time for this project is, just different now, and it will continue to move in that direction. So should we take in VC money, of which we'll begin taking those meetings within the next month, should we do that, it will be a balls to the wall. And in terms of support, it's a lot of time, I think, that's required. You definitely need money, but we already have a little bit of money. We have our personal assets as well, and that is something I would like to mention. This is a self-funded project, in the sense that Jared and I, most of what you see, we paid for out of pocket ourselves. We haven't used much of the private sale money at all. It is simply sitting there as a war chest. We do also have a couple of team members that work with us for free. Actually, the vast majority of our team, about 95% of our team, works with us for free. And we're really grateful for that. And I think part of the reason why we've been able to cultivate that kind of an atmosphere and that kind of a team is because, one, we focus on respect. We focus on being kind to people. We focus on treating them like humans and like people, like they have lives outside of this. And so, it has at times been a little bit slower of a process, but in terms of how we've been able to, with that in mind and with that respect and with that kind of group work, many hands making light work, we've been able to continuously develop and progress this thing forward. And, we've been able to essentially line up our dominoes. How we have structured this is such that we have a number of major marketing initiatives planned. I don't care to release too much information about some of those. We're playing them a little closer to the chest than the rest of this. But we are really, really pragmatic about kind of planning this out even day by day. Our marketing company, Kryptonite Marketing, they were attractive to us for a number of reasons. They not only optimize a dollar, but they are really, really attentive to breaking things down for their clients into even an hour by hour basis. So for a launch of anything, they'll say, hey, here's the first hour, here's the second hour, here's the third hour, here are the actionable, items, here's what we need from you, here's the content going out, here's this, here's that. And in terms of, breaking it down on a granular level like that, we really think it's important for projects to kind of apply that to lots of different things. And so it's not just these, marketing initiatives, but it is production as well. And we have
I'd like
operational specialists on our team, help us stay organized in that sense too. But yeah, Jared, please jump in, my friend.
two things. I killed my video because it seems like I'm having a little internet problems, and at least now I can hear better. So that's why I got off the video. But I wanted to add something too. It's funny too, the way it all kind of fell. The domino effect in line was one of the things that Zach and I were very adamant about when we first started the project. Was we wanted to align ourselves with really smart women. And you want to know why? Because women are just smarter and they get things done. So that was one of the things that we really looked for. And then when Kryptonite came and we kind of connected with them, and these were two brilliant women that were former military, and it's just like, oh, these girls are badass. We want to be working with them. So, and just like Hattie, I'm sure
quite
you
a bit.
agree. Yeah, how do you agree? Like it's a women's world these days, and they just get stuff done. So we couldn't be more fortunate to have that team behind us.
Whoa. Thank you very much. You just got a body, your team. Thank you very much. And I want to say your website is superb. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Let
you.
me ask the rest on your Telegram group. Thank you, Arch, for this opportunity.
Oh, you're welcome. And keep an eye out, because in the next 3 or 4 weeks, you'll see a whole new website. It's getting a complete rebrand.
And we'll keep some of the design elements, but look for essentially a brand new website. We want it to work in lockstep with this GameFi ecosystem. We want it to all be seamless. And so in terms of how we're rebranding, it's got to incorporate all of this new utility that we've been developing, all of this new concept. And we really want it to be a polished brand that looks good across multiple, content bases, across multiple surfaces, across multiple technologies. So
Thanks.
Thanks, Lord. Okay, now I'm going to unmute the last participant, last winner, and after that, one winner will be chosen to talk exclusively on Zoom. So I have unmuted Hussein.
Thank you, Archer. My question is, I could see there are two tokens
yes,
in Twolands.
so
First is
that is
PLT and second is PHAROAH. So could you explain to me what role and functions this latter token will fulfill and why it will be necessary and how it will differ from TLT?
I would love to quickly say this is a great question, and thank you so much first and foremost for going on our website, for going on our white paper. That is one of the antiquated pieces of our project that we have taken out. It is a vestige of our initial conception, and it is one of those pieces that we really took pride in, and we have great respect for the way that our developers built that token, and perhaps it will be released further down the road. But in terms of how we see it working with our token economy, it doesn't help support it. It doesn't help, in a way that we would want it to, and we wouldn't want it in any way to shake the confidence of investors, to shake the stability of our liquidity situation. Balancing a two token economy is far more difficult than balancing one. So in terms of limiting exposure to that, and with respect to that, we have removed it from our current conception of this Twolands project. So we will be happy to talk about it if you have additional questions. It is really cool. Our Solidity coder, his name is Assad. He's fabulous. He has essentially acted as our CTO in a lot of ways, but he had written that code in a way that helped to somewhat support the Twolands token over time by essentially adding a buyback feature. And so it would buy back our Twolands token as it was purchased. And that would happen as a transactional tax. It was a rebates functionality. There were also rebates, static reflections paid out in WETH, which was kind of cool. And so in terms of how we see that, it could have, real application. It could work. But how we want to release this initial Twolands project, it doesn't incorporate it currently, because it would require more than what we want to give to that. It's more time and attention to an additional economy when we would rather prefer to focus on the one and deliver the value to those investors.
Yeah, and just to add to that, essentially we don't want to confuse people right out of the gate. So it may come at a later time, it may not. It's really cool, like he had mentioned, but at the end of the day, and one of the takeaways for us is, especially over the last 3 or 4 months, and this ever-changing, crypto world, if you will, you need to learn how to pivot. You need to be able to change with the times. And I think that's Zach and I, to our strength, I think we listen to people. We listen not only to the community, we listen to extreme, advisors. And, it's just like we take it all in and we decide, okay, yeah, maybe we need to shift gears here. Maybe things are changing. Maybe this should be, thought over again. And I think that's why we've been so pragmatic and we've taken our time with this project, because as things change, you need to change with it. And and it's going to continue to be that way. Projects that are so firm in how they want things and their vision, they're going to struggle, I think, because they need to learn how to make those pivots when the time is right. They need to protect the community.
We're still early. This is still very early phases of the project. You guys are talking to us and listening to us, prior to a polished release of our white paper. We've been V1 for the last 6 to 8 months doing a lot of this work and attracting some good attention. And we've definitely been able to attract the people that have added a lot of value and a lot of insight. And we have a couple of people on our team that really do inform a lot of these practices. And we'd be happy to talk about any one individual if there are any other questions about why it is we do any of what we do. Fire those questions off at us, because we do give it thought. I guarantee you, and there will be a reason for it. So thank you for that question. And it's clear that you went to our website or read our white paper, and I'm so grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you for your
I want
detailed
to add
answer.
one last thing to that, and then I'll let you guys wrap it up, and we're going to have to take off soon too to get to another meeting. But that said, one of the things that we were so when we looked to hire Tony from Moonbound Consulting, and how, for those of you that just got on later in this, one of our strategic partnerships is Tony Drummond, who owns Moonbound Consulting and now Crypto Insider, but he was the former CEO, CTO, and founder of the very successful MicroPets project. And when you're scouting around and you're looking to meet people and connect and seek advisory, you deal with a lot of these companies and you interview them. And we took every meeting you could possibly imagine, because we like to take meetings with people. And one of the things that we immediately recognized is not a lot of them have ever done it before on their own. They help projects launch. They think things work. They've seen things work, but none of them ever did it themselves before. They never sat in the dev chair, if you will. So when we met Tony and we quickly aligned, day one, within 10 minutes, we were working together. And you know why? Is because, well, not only do we have a connection, but moreover, he's done it before. He took a project, a $200 million market cap, in a few weeks. He knows what works. He knows what doesn't work. So, and he has various contacts all over, so that we can skip through all the, nonsense, if you will, trying to sort through and find people that can do a good job and deliver what we're looking to deliver, because he has all those resources. And so it makes our lives a lot easier now. And his advice has been, for lack of a better word, just amazing in that. And he was he's the one who truly made us consider whether or not having a 2-token ecosystem would be beneficial long term for this ecosystem. So over the last few months, he had us think about that, and we still haven't made a decision, but it's certainly a possibility that it will not get released, or at a much later date. If we do, we don't want to confuse it any more than it needs to be.
Right. So I think you're not speaking because I cannot see you speaking. So I have chosen John Kennedy for 15 minutes Zoom call with the CEO of Twolands. Congratulations to you, and congratulations to other 3 winners.
That's fantastic.
The core team, Mr. Jared and Mr. Zach, floor is yours for a few minutes. Just give some advices or say whatever you want, and let's end this AMA with some good notes.
Great. Well, first and foremost, we'd just like to thank everyone that gave us their time today. We tend to speak a lot, as you probably can tell. We're truly passionate about this project. I think one of the things that I'd like you to take away, and I hope you join our various socials, our Telegram and our Twitter, and also our YouTube, to be honest with you, because we'd like to start going live and just kind of meeting people and, learning about who they are, not just who we are. But I hope one of the takeaways is you'll see our transparency and our honesty. We're kind of an integrity first project because we are so high mission. We know we need to be, and we don't know all the answers, but what we do know is the keys to leadership is putting the right people in place, right? Learning the things that perhaps other people can do better than, you at. So I think, to Zach and I's advantage, we recognize our strengths. We also recognize our weaknesses, and we intend to put the right people in place that can help us fulfill this greater mission that we're looking to accomplish.
Yeah, and quick note of good from me as well. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Archer.
Yeah, I just wanted John to speak a bit. I mean, just to show his presence to you guys, and you can carry on your message later on.
Sure.
Sorry for interruption.
All good.
Okay, hello, Mr. Jared. Hello, Mr. Zach. Thanks for the opportunity. I wasn't expecting to be picked, but I was kind of like thinking that we're gonna round up, but I guess I'm lucky. Thanks. I just have a few observations, and I am really happy to be part of this project, and also happy to share from my observations as well. And I must say, good. You guys have done so much good to the website. Just as a follow up, it's really very impressive and it's looking so beautiful. Kudos to the developers.
Well, thank you so much.
I did a fair amount of that by hand, actually. We had initially contracted a small team to do, some of the back end work, and they put together a framework. But myself and Assad, one of our other team members, kind of put our heads together and finalized that. So I take a bit of pride in that initial offering, and we will certainly be a lot more polished with our V2. We'll have a real professional get after it. But it is so nice to hear, and thank you. I'm very grateful for that, and we're happy to have you here. Congrats on the win too.
Thank you so much. I guess we're just going to go straight to business. We have 15 minutes, or would Archer care to? Do I have the
I'll
stage?
tell you what. In the interest of time, let's touch base outside of here, and maybe we'll find a time that works best for both of us that week. And if you want to spend even more than 15 minutes, I'm happy to do so.
We'll be a half hour, absolutely.
Yeah, and Zach's going to hop on that too, so you get both of us. So why don't we? I don't know if you want to go through Hadia and them, or if you just want to reach out to me in private, and we can discuss a time that works best. And if you don't want to use Zoom, if you want to use Telegram, or if you want to use Google, whatever works for you, and we'll find a time where we can chat for as long as you want.
Okay, awesome. This time actually works good for me. I don't know, but if you insist, we could reschedule.
Yeah, I'd like to reschedule
John,
only because I'd like to give you a little bit more time. We do have to, Zach and I both do have another meeting actually in 40 minutes, and that we're going to have to kind of get ready to hop in the car soon. So yeah, I think it'd be better if we do find a time together where we can give you as much time as you'd like.
Yeah, I'd love to give you the proper time and attention. Thanks in advance for the patience. I'm sorry it's not immediate. We can certainly do 15 minutes,
later today if you'd like.
Yeah. But in terms of giving you a little bit more time and perhaps a little more than initially was projected for, and that's something we'd actually love to do more of, by the way. Well, let's find a time that works for all of us. Just sit down for a little bit longer.
Okay, I do appreciate. I'm going to send you a shout out your DM. I hope you don't mind, Mr.
Absolutely.
Jared and Mr. Zach.
Not at all.
Of course.
That's great.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, the team Twolands, for joining us today, and it was really healthy conversation, and I enjoyed hosting you guys, and you are really talkative and sweet and cooperative. I wish you very good luck for your project and for the upcoming sales.
Absolutely. We can't thank you enough, and maybe after launch we come back and we hang out a bit and keep you updated. Sound good?
Yeah, even during our marketing blitz, we're going to be looking to hop on with a bunch of groups, and you've been very kind. Thank you for being such a great host. We'd love to come back.
Thank you so much, and we will be looking forward to it. And thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
You too. Take care, everybody.